Hello, namaste. This is Tim Halloran. I'm an astrologer here in Savannah, Georgia. This is a weekly astrological forecast. I put these videos on YouTube once a week. You can help support future videos by purchasing a reading from me at the link below. So today is Tuesday the 10th, and we're into our second week of the highly intense, fast-paced, transformative month of March 2015. All right, and hopefully we got to enjoy a little bit of socializing and communication over the weekend, because things got real again, kicking off Monday morning. The moon moved into Scorpio, Mars moved into an exact trine with Jupiter in fire signs, and now coming tomorrow, Mars is going to form a conjunction with Uranus, square Pluto. So things stay intense this week. And I'm going to try to not be too redundant because we talked about a lot of this month's energy in last week's video. So if you didn't catch last week's video, I recommend watching that so I don't be more redundant than I already am. Okay? But what's unique about right now is the energy is just building and building and building. It's still culminating this week. Typically, we have kind of build-ups towards the full moons and then things sort of dissolve into the new moon. And because this is a weekly report, we always talk about the contrast between the new moons, which are periods of sowing intention and building a new cycle, and the full moon is this time typically of tension and culmination and challenge, which causes us to actually evolve and move towards those things that we intend. However, last week's Thursday full moon in Virgo was not the final end of this culmination. These weeks, we may have noticed that the energy is still continuing to pick up, although the moon is now waning. All right, and this Thursday we have our fourth quarter square, our half moon. And the next day, this weekend, we're going to have a moon in Capricorn. So this next weekend, moon in Capricorn, the 14th, the 15th, highly ambitious time to really bust some stuff out. But let's talk about this energy that's still building, because it's still building this week. We have Mars coming in, lots of fiery energy, lots of passion, lots of revolutionary, I'm going to say angry, fiery, gotta change, gotta do things now energy. And it's building up to our final Uranus square to Pluto, which is in fact next Monday. And then next Friday, that's the 20th of March, we have a solar eclipse in the final degree of the zodiac, 29 degrees Pisces, on the day of the spring equinox. All right. So this month is a huge birthing. This month is transformation and change. And this is not an easy time, particularly for those of us that are resisting change. And I'm going to talk to you about these various laws of the universe that exist, okay? One of them being that we have free will, all right? Because Mars rules our willpower, we're dealing with a very excited, passionate, willful Mars this week who wants to do things our way, to our will. And there are choices. There are choices to be made, okay? But what we can sort of say, long story short, is that the most difficult choices we could be making now is to resist change that naturally wants to be happening right now. This is a highly revolutionary time. This is a time of governments collapsing, of systems changing, of revolutionary energy, birthing new movements, birthing new paradigms, okay? And what we got to say about free will is that we always have free will. Everything in the universe can be this huge hodgepodge transformation, and we don't have to change. We have free will. That's, the universe is going to make things difficult for us because there's another law of the universe, and both of these laws are coming out of grace, out of unconditional love for us. All right. Free will essentially says that we can come here to this three-dimensional world and choose to stay in forgetfulness, choose to remain in separation. That is a gift to us because our eternal nature, our primordial, original position is one of eternal union with the spiritual world and the spiritual planes where all souls are eternally exchanging and forming relationships and experiencing one another. And so this experience here, this earthly experience, in a very big point of view, is us playing hide and seek with our own eternal nature. Because our own eternal nature is so profound, so beautiful, so breathtakingly, inconceivably fulfilling and whole and tasty, that it's very, very enjoyable to hide ourselves from that beautiful eternal nature and then rediscover it again and again and again. Okay, and we have free will to choose how we're going to do that. We can remain here, lost in forgetfulness, in separation, for as long as we choose, for as long as we will. However, there is another eternal law coming out of unconditional love for us and mercy, which is the provoking force that encourages us to rediscover our eternal nature. That way we don't remain here eternally, even though we can choose that probability. It is possible for us to remain eternally separate. Because of this provoking force, chances are we will be encouraged and sort of pushed to rediscover our eternal nature. All right, and this provoking force I'm discussing is, of course, suffering. And suffering is not typically seen in this light. Suffering is seen as something bad, negative, that we need to get rid of, that we need to change. And for those of us that study religion and understand this spiritual nature of suffering, we understand that suffering never truly goes away. Our understanding and our appreciation of it changes. So it becomes something that stems out of mercy for us instead of being something to, say, punish us. All right, why am I mentioning this now? Because we're dealing with Mars, conjunct Uranus, square to Pluto. Mars being our willpower. Conjunct Uranus wants to be free, liberated, completely on our own. I mean, Mars conjunct Uranus can really do our own thing, be spontaneous, be brash, and like we talked about last week, we have to be very in tune with our true desires, with knowing ourself and where we actually want to go concretely, to be grounded in our truth, to be grounded in knowing who I am, my story, where I'm coming from and where I'm going. Because otherwise, this very spontaneous, intense, fiery energy can just have us move so quickly and so brashly and spontaneously. It's like we can just decide to leave everybody and drive 100 miles away to Hollywood, only to realize halfway there that we're just being totally crazy. We're being driven by this intense Uranian revolutionary urge that is shaking the collective, wanting us to change, wanting us to transform. And what is transforming? Mars square to Pluto is tremendous passion. And with this kind of energy, we need to really watch out that we are being calm, that we are being contained, that we aren't getting so enraged that we lose our perspective and we start hurting ourselves and other people unintentionally, because this collective energy is so intense. So yeah, this whole month, please lay off of the caffeine. And the reason I recommend that is, this is my Taurus moon talking, but I'm really into plants and different types of plant medicines. And caffeine is a stimulant. It stimulates us. We don't need to be any more stimulated this month. That's going to make us easily be overstimulated. And then we're going to be angry, we're going to be ruthless, and we're going to feel not good. Instead of looking for stimulants, we want to look for adaptogens. Adaptogens lower our stress levels, give us energy, but natural, clean energy that allows us to adapt to our environment, adapt to this really intense incoming energy, and not get shaken up so much by it that we, blow a cork and go crazy. So what is all of this fiery, intense Martian energy trying to do? I mean, what is this choice that we have the opportunity to make? Okay, and this is the thing with free will and choices. All this intense, restless energy, even though we have free will, it's going to make it very difficult not to change, okay? Because the other form of grace and eternal law of the universe, which is suffering, is going to increase if we are resisting change right now, because all of this is really working for us to change in the direction that is bringing us back to our eternal nature. But if we're resisting that movement, this is a really tough time. And what is changing? What is actually transforming? Pluto is this planet of transformation. And Pluto is moving through the sign of Capricorn. And I'm actually going to be talking about Pluto in Capricorn for my teacher, Kaipacha's New Paradigm Community. I'm going to include a link below to the New Paradigm Community. For those of you who may be aspiring astrologers or interested in astrology, it's a really fantastic place to talk with other professional astrologers and to communicate where we're talking about what's going on. And Pluto being in Capricorn, what is transforming? This long-term transformation is the establishment, is the government, is the system, the money system, the regulatory systems, right? And what also Capricorn represents is cultural tradition. So, government, nations, traditions, all of this stuff is getting crunched by this Uranus, crunched by Mars. People are pissed. People are pissed because the old stuff, the government as it is, the cultural traditions as they are, the systems as they are not working. They are imprisoning us. They are imprisoning us from actualizing our eternal nature. Therefore, we can feel the suffering, okay? And as I like to talk about in these reports, any amount of pressure put in one direction causes an equal and opposite reaction. So all of this suffering coming down on us by the current establishment, the current government, the current cultural religious traditions is leading to an equal and opposite reaction of passion. And this passion is just exploding forward out of the collective right now. And it is a difficult wave to ride. Why? Because it's spiky. Passion is spiky. Mars is the sword. It's spiky. It's sharp. It's intense. It's not coasting right now. I mean, this is the rapids, yeah? And as we've been talking about, I mean, this is this big buildup to this huge explosion of a new way, of a new direction, of a new identity. But here's the thing with the law of free will. Everything in the world can be perfectly aligned for this transformation to happen. All of the planets can be perfectly aligned in the most auspicious configuration for this transformation. And we don't have to change, because the only one who changes is you. You must be the one to change. You must be the one to accept that we're going to do things differently and do it differently. You have to be the one to do it. Yes, and I'm pointing at you because that should be going back to you. Yeah, and it's an interesting little unconscious trick that when you say to someone, hey you, they tend to go, who, me? And we unconsciously point back to ourself. This is where we are. This is where our soul resides. It's an unconscious movement. We don't go, who, me? We go, who, me? Yeah, that's our unconscious. Our unconsciousness contains so much knowledge, so much more knowledge than we could ever understand is in our unconsciousness, okay? But anyways, it's up to you, it's up to me to do this change. All of the world can be perfectly aligned, but it's going to be us. It is our understanding. It is our understanding of the direction that we will take things that is changing. All right, we're not waiting for this stuff to happen to us. That's not how this stuff works. And that's something that I think really needs to be understood, particularly in this New Age movement. I mean, so many people were really excited, really paranoid for the December 21st, 2012 thing, if you recall. A lot of people thought all this change was going to happen to them. Like the vibration was suddenly going to skyrocket, UFOs were going to land, the government was going to blow up, and it was all just going to happen on its own. And this is not what life does. Why? That's boring, that's shallow. This is going to be so much better, so much more exciting, so much deeper and fulfilling because it includes your participation. It includes your will. It includes your free will to choose this, to decide to do this on your own accord, for your own reasons. And so we need to harness this energy. And this is a tough thing to do with this really edgy, spiky energy. Yeah, because what this spiky energy is we can feel on top of the world one day. Like, oh man, I see what Tim's saying now. This is going to be totally different. New paradigm. I'm free, baby. Yeah, I feel connected. I feel compassion and love for everybody. And then the next day, all the shit comes out again. The relationship trigger happens again. Yeah, we get thrown back into our old stuff, our old insecurities, our old fears. And then we just go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And this is friction that's happening. And friction is the same as kinetic energy. Going up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down is going to force us onto a level that is completely different than the up, down level. Yeah, this is solving a problem on a level different than it was created. And that's what this tension, this friction, this powerhouse of energy is going to lead us. It's going to lead us to a breakthrough, to a breakdown. And that's something we have to be very aware of this week. Yeah, this energy is intense. We have to be very easy on ourselves. We have to calm down, lay off the stimulants, you know. On one hand, you can't sit this one out. We really can't. There's so much going on. We're getting bombarded from all angles. There's so much action and adventure. Yeah, I mean, Mars trine to Jupiter wants to express, wants to go on adventure, wants to do things new and differently and flamboyantly and big. Yeah? So we can't just sit this one out and just like, oh, I'm going to, you know, take a bunch of melatonin and fall asleep for 2 weeks, and then I'll wake up when all the transformation is done. But on the other hand, we need to give ourselves the space to breathe, to be able to slow down enough to not lose our heads in this thing. Because it's going to be easy for us to just get carried away, yeah, or just try to do things so perfectly. Like, now's the time, baby, I'm going to get this bullseye. And then just kind of freak out if we don't get it the first couple times. I mean, this stuff takes practice. It doesn't happen instantly. The whole thing with this birthing that's going on, it's like, okay, it's leading up to a solar eclipse. Does that mean the day of the solar eclipse, boom, I'm born and then everything's done? No. When you get born, then you got to learn how to walk. Then you got to learn how to crawl. Then you got to learn how to talk. I mean, it's just going to keep going. We're going to keep growing. We're going to keep learning. This is just a highly frictionless, exciting time because we're leading to this essentially a breakthrough point. Yeah, and things do change when you go from living in the womb to living outside of the womb. I mean, there is a big difference that we are transcending through right now. Okay, and what we also have assisting us in this week is Mercury moving into Pisces on Thursday, and Mercury will remain there till the end of the month. And this is our mind, and Mercury is the messenger. And Mercury in Pisces is delivering messages from the ethers, messages from our guides, from spirit, from unconditional love, from our higher selves. And this is auspicious. And then once again, you know, we use these terms auspicious, inauspicious quite frequently in astrology. Oh yes, an auspicious time to do work, an inauspicious time to do work. It's still about choices, okay? This is an auspicious time for us to implement our deepest goals, our deepest dreams into reality. And we can think about it now. It's an excellent time to meditate, to tap into our deepest self, and then simultaneously bring it into being, anchor it into the world. Do, not just talk, do the change, be the change. All right, this new paradigm is not about knowing. It's not about what you know. It's not about what spiritual understanding you possess. It's about what we are creating. It's what we are building, what we are doing that is a testament of what we know. Who cares what you know? Who cares how many times you read the book about love? What are you doing to show this world love? Because this world's not going to be loving until we do that. This world's not going to be loving because now is the new age. This world is going to be loving because we make it so. Okay? So it's an exciting time. It's a time for birthing. It's a time of seeing polarities. It's a time of being frustrated. It's a time of defeat. It's a time of challenge. It's a time of flopping down on our face, picking ourselves up, flopping down again. And we just have to understand that that's part of the process because we're really carving a way forward. Yeah, and the way you move through that old insecurities, those old fears, is you fall into them and then you bring yourself out of them. And then you fall into them, and you do that as many times as it takes that you can fall into them and not take it so seriously. It's not that fear disappears. It's not that you get enlightened and suddenly everything is wonderful and enjoyable and I don't experience the full spectrum of life. No, we continue to experience the full spectrum of life, which means if you're doing the whole heaven versus hell, good versus bad, pleasure versus pain thing, you're going to not like that. But if you are embracing the whole spectrum of life, you can see the significance and appreciate the full spectrum. That means when you fall into your old stuff, oh look, it's my old stuff, the stuff that I'm chiseling through, the stuff that I'm not taking as seriously as I did in the past, because I know that this is not my eternal nature. This is temporary. Yeah, it's challenging. Yeah, it's unpleasant. Yeah, it's shisty, it's painful, it's not fun. But it's not eternal, it's not real, therefore I don't have to become so hung up on it. I can trust my eternal nature. I can trust where permanently I am being directed, which is back to my original position, which is one seated in unconditional love, and a world so pleasurable and blissful that I enjoy playing peekaboo with my eternal nature because it's exciting. And then I don't take everything so seriously, yeah? I mean, this is the other thing that we really have to watch out for, is I see so many people putting so much focus on what is old and crumbling. Okay, and what I mean by this is, okay, we said that the government is changing, the old cultural traditions are changing, and I see a lot of people super hung up on the fact that the government sucks, people are being oppressed, same thing with religious traditions, all of these things. Okay, you know that already. It's like the first stage of awakening is realizing that the world is dark. This is the first stage of awakening. We get raised to believe everything's great. You watch commercials on television. Oh, toothpaste is going to make me super happy and fulfilled. Okay, and then we grow up and we awaken to the fact, oh, okay, the world is a hell of a lot darker than I was taught in grade school. That's the first stage of realization. You don't stay focused on that forever, though. You don't just stay hung up on the world sucks, the world sucks, the world sucks. Look how shitty the government is. Look how much darkness is. There's demons everywhere. People are getting controlled by the Illuminati and all this stuff. It's like, okay, enough of that. It doesn't matter anymore because you're focusing on what sucks and what is old and crumbling. That stuff is transforming. Instead, focus and do what is new, what we want to bring into this world. Stop looking at how dark and disgusting the world is and therefore, I'm going to be stuck in this world. Don't pay attention to that. Now we have, again, the opportunity to do it differently. The world that's controlled by the Illuminati, the government, the demons, whatever, doesn't affect you anymore unless you choose to have it do that. But that choice is up to you. That's not a forced thing. Okay, you're not in the torture, you're not in the dungeon. Okay, we're not being oppressed right now. There's not even a war waging in most of our countries, all right? So most of us are actually in a very opportune position to start changing things ourselves, beginning with you, beginning with me. And then everything else transforms on its own. Yeah, but what really this is all about is it's about you changing. Yeah, and if we can align in such a way to anchor in more of our eternal divine perfection, we can and we will make it so. Okay, this is a rebirth. This is a time to know who you are and do it in the world. So all the best to you and your beloveds. What I'm also recommending right now is energy healing. And I don't plug my partner, Mackenzie, quite enough. She is an incredible energy healer. And oftentimes when we do our sessions together in person, we'll do an astrology reading and an energy healing. And we're combining forces and we're coming from two different angles. And I think, personally, with the direction of this new age, we're going to see more and more and more of that. All these alternative holistic healings are going to start fusing together, are going to start making these radical new medicines that come in their combination. But anyways, during this highly intense, spiky energy time, I recommend energy healing as a way of kind of guiding this birthing session. You can think of as energy healer as a midwife, all right? So Mackenzie is offering distant sessions and you can schedule a distant session with her. Okay? And I'm wishing all the best to you and your beloveds. Stay in touch. Let me know what's going on in your life. I would love to hear from the collective back during these exciting times. So much love. Namaste.